Hey everybody, welcome to episode 27 of the Go Get Outside podcast. This is your host, Jason Milligan. On today's show, we have self-proclaimed human Yogi Bear, Shawnte Salabert. She is a senior writer for modernhiker.com. She is a staff member for the Sierra Club. She is a thru hiker, and she is currently writing a book about the lower portion of the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. So let's all travel back in time to that night at Silverlake Meadow for a very special ADD episode where Shawnte and I refuse to stay on topic and delve deeply into the age-old question, McConaughey or Ruffalo?
My name is Shawnte Salabert, and I am a hiker, backpacker, climber, general curiosity seeker. I am currently writing a book about the Southern and Central California portions of the Pacific Crest Trail, which means I'm on the trail a ton. I am a staff member for the Sierra Club's Wilderness Travel course. I'm the senior writer for Modern Hiker and a bunch of other things.
I noticed that you squinted your eye. Is that how you bring up memories?
Forcing it out, squeezing out all the details.
So you do a whole lot of things is basically what it came down to.
Basically, yes.
So an easy way to start this out, since there are so many things, is to go all the way back to tiny, tiny little Shawnte. What did they call you when you were a little kid? They call you like Shay Shay or something? Really?
Yeah.
I knew it had to be something
Shay.
like that.
Or my sister called me Shay because she couldn't say Shay.
My brother used to call me Bruh.
Bruh, just like a grunt.
I don't know why I had him call me that. I liked it when I was like 8 years old, 10 years old, and then at some point I was like, you can't call me that anymore. And it didn't go away for a long time. But anyway, back to you.
Please.
So let's go to little Shay.
Aw.
Little Shay, scared of the world around her. Or maybe not.
Maybe not. Come on, bro.
So how'd you go from a fetus to the woman you are today?
Wow,
Let's
guys.
cover all of that in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Can you?
Yeah,
maybe 30 words or fewer.
Sure. All right. It's taken X amount of years to get to this point. I grew up in Milwaukie, and I grew up in the middle of the city. It was, I lived across the street from a Boys and Girls Club. I started going there when I was 5, and it was just the boys' club, and they had a summer camp.
So wait, was it a Boys and Girls Club before, and then it turned into a boys' club, or it was a Boys and Girls Club and then you joined? Or it was a boys' club and then became a Boys and Girls Club? I
converted it solo, single-handedly converted it for girls the country over.
Is that true? Did you convert it?
I was one of the few.
Okay.
Yes, the few, the proud, the brave. Also, I think my mom just needed babysitting and probably fudged my age to get me in because I was also too young, so... It worked in my favor, though.
Not to derail the conversation already, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here's a terrible, terrible story. When I was in high school and early years of college, I used to work at the public library back in Baton Rouge where I grew up. And there were some kids that would show up because their parents did not want to get babysitters, so they would just leave their kids at the library for 8 hours.
It's an awesome place to abandon your child, think about it.
But they would sincerely leave them at 9 in the morning and come pick them up at 7 at night. Until someone would catch on and try to stop it. That is not a good way to raise. I mean, at least it's a library, and
right?
Not
it wasn't
like
the
drug
public
den
dump
or something. But,
yeah.
But that's not a good way to raise your kid.
Could be worse.
Anyway, back to your mother.
My mother dumping me at the Boys and Girls
dumping
Club.
you at Boys and Girls Club.
Which is actually a pretty great place if you're going to dump a kid for 8 hours. They had a summer camp, and so when I was 8 years old, they had a one-night overnight to this mysterious, magical summer camp. We had a lot of parks in Milwaukie. It's one of the best kind of county city parks systems in the entire country, apparently. I grew up in the middle of a kind of a rough neighborhood, very urban environment, if you will. And so I had never been to somewhere full of pine trees and lakes and all this good stuff. So I got to go to the summer camp, Camp Wicca Mason, for one night when I was 8, and I fell in love with it. It smelled amazing. It was beautiful. It was quiet. I could see all the stars. And I begged my mom to send me back. I got to go back for an 11-day session and didn't stop going until I went to college. So, I mean, I did. I would leave camp and come home because I was forced to, because, they closed every summer. But I loved it. That was the beginning of my transformation.
So that was where everything went wrong.
That's where I went down that deep, dark path to outdoorswomanship. You
joined the boys club, converted it nationwide into the Boys and Girls Club. All by yourself without any additional help when you were 4 years old.
That's right. 5,
yep.
but
5,
yes.
5 years old, okay. I don't want to exaggerate.
Yes, I had 1 extra year of experience in there.
Okay,
Come on.
right. I mean, that's a big difference, 4 to 5.
It is.
You
A lot of things happen.
6 to 8 inches.
Your thought process is really deepened.
Maybe you could feed yourself and put on your own shoes.
Yeah.
Maybe tie your own shoelaces.
Scaling 300-foot walls solo,
Sweet.
A lot happens in that year.
So you did that. You went off to camp. You really liked it. And then you...
I loved it.
Went away for school?
I went away. I did go away for school. The summer that I graduated, the year I graduated high school, I was 16 when I graduated. I was one of those nerdy kids that got skipped ahead. I finally got to work at camp that summer. Turned 17, went to college, and decided to go to college to be a park ranger. That was my dream. I was going to be like the human version of Yogi Bear. It was going to be amazing. I was going to teach children all about
Why would you want to be the human version of Yogi Bear?
I probably could have come up with a better example of that.
I don't know when the last time is you watched a Yogi Bear cartoon. He was at odds with the ranger.
Okay.
He wasn't an honorary park ranger. He was the creature the ranger was fighting with.
You're making some valid points.
Did you maybe mean Yogi Berra?
Yeah, definitely. I was way into baseball. So, do as I say, not as I do. No, do as I do, not as I say. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Do as I say. I don't know.
Just don't do it. Probably just listen. Listen and let me correct my mistakes.
All right, so you wanted to be the human Yogi Bear.
I wanted to chase after people's picnic baskets. Loved food. But yeah, I wanted to be a park ranger or do environmental education. And so I went to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, which is kind of nationally known as being the place to go if you want to nerd out on like trees and soil and hydrology and everything like that. I made the mistake, though, of getting in the wrong track, and I was in the forestry track thinking, like, I would just learn about trees all day, and it would be amazing. And what I was learning about trees was how to measure them so that I could cut them down and send the trees to the paper mill. So,
But then you can take that paper and write about the trees.
I could.
So it could be a cycle.
You're right. Yeah, that's true. That's not exactly how it all worked out, though. But yeah, I kind of switched tacks. I actually ended up getting my master's in social work and sort of put all of the environmental stuff on the back burner. I mean, I wasn't like, going out there chopping down trees and, poisoning waterways. I just stopped studying it and thought, well, maybe I'll just leave that for sort of like a hobby or something. And
wait, poisoning waterways? That would be, you'd leave that as a hobby?
Just a casual hobby. It's actually why we're at the reservoir tonight.
Are you a Batman villain?
Don't give away all my secrets in the first 10 minutes here, Guy.
You have no idea what my name is. That's what I just realized.
Jason.
You called me Guy.
Guy. You can't just use Guy as no, your name is Jason. This is Jason, our host. Guy. Yogi Bear. No, the hobby would have been teaching people about the environment.
The hobby would be not poisoning.
Not poisoning.
Okay,
that would be the anti-hobby.
Okay.
My hobby would be teaching people not to poison the environment.
So where did you go from there? You decided, I'm not going to be the human Yogi Bear. You locked that inside of you for later. Maybe it still hasn't come out.
I haven't. You're right. Yes, it's still working through it tonight, actually.
Decided to get into social work.
I did.
Study social work.
I did.
At some point you completed your education.
I did. I got my master's degree and I left Wisconsin. I was in Madison for my master's. I left Madison, drove all the way down to South Carolina and ended up living in Charleston for almost 5 years. What's funny is that that's kind of where I reconnected with the outdoors. I wasn't doing anything work-wise or anything. I wasn't writing about the outdoors. I was actually a music journalist for a big part of that. I sort of abandoned social work, went completely in another direction. The South is totally fascinating. It's very different. I mean, I moved down there because I wanted something completely different than Wisconsin, than what I'd known. And what was cool is that going down there, I'd been used to like lakes and forests, pine trees and all that. And you get down in South Carolina and there's stuff like that, but you also have these amazing coastal environments and these barrier islands with these creepy whitewashed trees on the shores and these, the ocean right there. And I ended up falling in love with the outdoors again, but in a very different way. And I started climbing out there. I'd climbed a little bit at summer camp. I got tricked into it, and I ended up kind of liking it. And so there was an outdoor climbing wall in Charleston that I'd go to, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. But, it was more just like a every once in a while thing.
So you rediscovered yourself in the South.
I did.
Traveled to the South to find the Yogi Bear inside you.
Doesn't this sound like a great movie plot?
Did you meet Matthew McConaughey and fall in love?
I didn't.
No?
I didn't.
That's
I fell in love
unfortunate.
with others, but not him.
Other country boys?
Yes, indeedy.
So then, Southern California.
No.
You're there now.
Yeah,
How did you
I
get
derailed in
all the
between.
way from the other side of the country to this side of the country?
First, I went north, and I spent some time in New York City.
Oh, because I rediscovered the
New York
nature. I'm
City.
sick of this.
Yeah.
Go back to the city.
Got over it pretty quickly. Wanted to go be surrounded by concrete. No, but listen, New York was another sort of revelation because you get up there and here's this, the concrete jungle. You're on this tiny island just crammed full of people and gray things. And then you have Central Park, which is incredibly beautiful. It is actually just like a stunning place to go lose yourself for an afternoon, literally or figuratively, maybe get killed a little bit. But generally, it's a really nice place to go for a walk, have a picnic. And then you can hop on the train because there's things north of the city. I don't know if you're aware. New York's not its own thing. It's not, there's more to New York State.
I have heard a lot about upstate New York.
There are other things
I
up
have
there.
not experienced upstate New York, but I've heard wonderful things about it and how it is the polar opposite of New York City.
Yeah, it is. It's all pastoral and beautiful. There's woods, there's gorges, there's waterfalls. It's nuts. It's so beautiful. So that kind of got me thinking some more about the outdoors, but it wasn't a daily part of my life in New York either. I mean, not until I came out here. And then you come out here, and I remember going up to the Sierra and going to Yosemite, and that was it. It was like game over, game changer. I am officially in love. The Sierra is my boyfriend. This is all I need in life.
Matthew McConaughey, eat your heart out.
I don't even think Matthew McConaughey's that cute, dude. Guy.
I don't know. He's just the person that comes to mind when movies
This is
about
like
hot guys in the
1999.
South. Matthew McConaughey is a very frequent listener of this podcast, and he is crying.
Is he?
Right?
How about Mark Ruffalo? Let's try Mark Ruffalo maybe instead.
Okay.
He can be your new guy reference.
Is Mark Ruffalo from the South?
I don't know.
Does he play hot guy from the South in a lot of movies?
I see where you're going with this, but let's use Mark Ruffalo here
Okay.
on out. The
All right.
Sierra were Mark
so
Ruffalo.
country Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, country Mark Ruffalo. I feel bad if Mark Ruffalo overhears this. Not so much if Mr. McConaughey does.
I guarantee you, if McConaughey hears this, he's not wearing a shirt. I'm willing to bet $50 right now.
Go to a real special place.
All right, so you came out here and you went to the Sierra, saw Yosemite.
I did. I started making grand plans. It's funny, like the first week I lived out here, I ran into some people that I knew in Charleston, and neither of us knew that each other was out here. And for some reason, we got the wild hair to go for a hike in Griffith Park, but it was just going to be a quick hike. We're like, oh, let's just walk up towards the Hollywood sign. Neither of us knowing that the Hollywood sign is not just like a quick little jaunt. It was hot. We were wearing jeans. I think I had like Converse on. And we're walking, and the trail keeps kind of dipping around and around. We're like, I don't know. Should we keep going? Yeah, let's keep going. And we got to the top, and I was like, all right, that was kind of epic. We're a little dehydrated. I might pass out, but you know what? I kind of like this. And so later that week, I was like, I want to see what else is out there. So I actually drove out to the Santa Monica Mountains, and there used to be a shuttle. I don't know if you remember this, but you used to be able to park your car, and you could take a shuttle through the mountains and stop off at a couple different places. And so I stopped at the ranger station and said, can I find a waterfall? Is there one out here? And they're like, yes, it is here. Solstice Canyon.
Do you know what year this was? Do you remember?
This was in the ancient days of, I want to say 2007 maybe.
Okay, so there was still water.
There was still water in the Santa Monica Mountains in California in 2007. We weren't all desiccated little raisin people.
So that's when you moved out here, 2007?
Yeah, I think it was around New Year's. 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. My memory is hazy, but yeah, let's see. I could probably do the math. It's a little late in the day for math.
We'll just call it 2007,
Let's call it
give or take
2007.
a year or two.
Yeah.
And
what would make it 9 years? If I was 9 years in December.
2007.
That's great.
Or 2006.
2006. Yeah. Okay, so 2006.
It is currently January 2016. That is not when you will be hearing this, but that is when it is right now. I think January 25th, maybe.
My math skills will have vastly improved by the time you hear this, I promise. Yeah, so
well,
2007.
you did not. You wanted to be a Yogi Bear. You wanted to be a ranger. You never said you wanted to be a mathematician.
I never did. That was never. That was
acceptable.
part of the reason that I said screw it when I took those forestry classes, because there was all sorts of like measuring the distance of the tree from the ground and how much paper could you get from it.
Stupid numbers.
Stupid. I like words. Words are my jam. Numbers.
So you ran off to see a waterfall.
I did.
We're there in
I
2006.
I took the shuttle in the glory days when there was water. And yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome. And what was amazing is, this is, mind you, my first week in LA. And I'm coming back to my car. I'm like a 1/10 of a mile from the parking lot. And I look, and there's a bobcat in front of me, like staring down a bird. And I was just standing there, and I'm like, what is this?
That is much better than what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say, it was my first week in LA. I walked to this waterfall, and then I went back, and someone had broken into my car and stolen all of my...
Don't jinx it. No, it was a bobcat. I was simultaneously sort of like scared shitless and super excited, because I'd never seen one of those before.
Well,
and then
they're not very big either.
No, but it's just a thing. It's like a giant house cat. It's like a house cat with markings on it and bigger teeth and more claws. But it was just, you don't see those things. My cat's large. Eddie Cat Halen is a big cat.
Did you say Eddie Cat Halen?
Oh, I did.
That's your cat's name?
Oh, I
Okay.
did. Yes. It's a pretty awesome cat.
Does he have his own Instagram account?
No, he's too cool for that.
So it's a MySpace page?
Yeah, it's
retro.
a Friendster. It's totally a Friendster page. Only the cool cats, literally, get to be on there.
2006-ish. You see a waterfall.
Yes.
You see a bobcat.
I do,
You
I
move
do.
to Los Angeles. You hike to a sign.
Pretty cool, yeah.
And you remember that you like this stuff.
Yeah. And I got this Jones for the Sierra after visiting, and I was going out to see the Dodgers one night with a bunch of friends, and everyone was going to meet at my place. And I had been to Olympic National Park earlier that year with my best friend from high school, who also lives out here. And I had a book about Olympic, like, sitting out in my living room. And one of the girls in the friend group came over first. She came over kind of early. And we didn't really know each other that well, so we're making awkward small talk. And then she sees this Olympic National Park book. She's like, oh, hey, have you been there? I'm like, oh, yeah, it was really awesome. She's like, oh, do you like hiking? I'm like, I do. Do you like hiking? She's like, I do. And then we started talking about this
Do you like
blog.
Mark Ruffalo?
Do you like Mark Ruffalo? 'Cause I do. I don't know if I mentioned that, Mark, if you're listening. And we're sitting there talking about this website we both like to find hike info, which was Modern Hiker. And we're like, well, that's cool. It's a pretty neat website. Okay, we should pick one of those hikes and go do it. So we decided to go do this hike. We also discussed that day that we both wanted to climb Mount Whitney, which ended up happening the next year, I think.
Which is the highest peak in the lower 48 states.
That's right.
For anyone who doesn't know that.
Who are those people?
And Modern Hiker. Why don't you tell people what Modern Hiker is?
Oh, yeah. Modern Hiker's awesome. ModernHiker.com. It is the most well-read hiking outdoorsy blog in Southern California, and I would venture to say one of the more popular ones on the West Coast. And we have some nationwide fans as well. But it's a hiking website started by this awesome guy named Casey Schreiner, and he started it way back yonder. I don't know, like probably about 9 years ago or something. And
just around the time you moved here.
just around that.
How convenient.
Yeah, I know. Some things just happen for a reason. But yeah, so he started this website just to kind of document hikes in LA, because people have this misconception that, you live in Southern California or LA and it's all just like the people with fake boobs and fast cars and palm trees, and that's about it. He wanted to start battling that misconception, but also kind of keeping track of the things he was doing. And so his website sort of grew into this resource of hike write-ups. So you could go on there and maybe find a write-up for Switzer Falls or Echo Mountain or something kind of here in SoCal. And so what was funny is that we just kind of knew him as Modern Hiker. That's just everybody who meets Casey is like, you're a Modern Hiker, as if like Modern Hiker is a man. And what's awesome is that Rebecca and I both had that thing. We're like, Modern Hiker, the man, the myth, the legend. And what was awesome is that after Rebecca and I did our first hike together, it went horribly wrong. We totally ignored a sign that said that there had been a rock slide and the trail was closed. Somehow we didn't read all of those words and decipher that we should not be on this trail. We have dubbed this trail the Tom Sloan Hell Trail, by the way. There were Spanish bayonets everywhere, which I now call stabby little asshole plants. And we both came off the trail like bleeding, and and angry at the world, but also relieved.
And angry at Modern Hiker for sending you there?
No, we weren't. We were not. We were not. But we did go on his website, and he used to have a forum, like the kids did back in the day to talk to each other on the interwebs. I wrote up like an account of our story, a dashing account of our epic,
This trail is shit. This is the dumbest explanation ever. Don't listen to this. Is that what you did? Were you one of those?
Yeah. No. But I did say if anybody's going out there, blah, blah, blah. But, I kind of wrote it up in sort of a hysterically funny way. At least that's what everybody thought that read it and told me that, the one person that said that. But Casey thought it was funny. And Casey also, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, was like, if you guys ever want to hike together, let me know. We're like, Modern Hiker wants to hike with us, especially after we wrote like all the bad things we just did. What's wrong with this guy? And so we ended up getting together with Modern Hiker. And we got together with this guy, Colby, who at the time was doing a thing called like the 100 Hikes Project. And he was another guy whose blog we followed. And so the four of us get together. And we had never met Colby before. We had met Colby once. We did a quick hike with him. But none of us had backpacked together. We're like, we're going to go backpack Mount San Gorgonio, which is known as the highest peak in Southern California. It's not an easy hike. You've probably done it, right?
I think I've hiked in the area. I don't think I've actually hiked up it.
Epic failure.
I'm trying to think if I have or not.
Well, you should. Even though most of the trails to access it burnt this summer in the lake fire, which was very sad. But there's at least one trail still open. I think the Vivian Creek Trail. And it's awesome up there. It's basically, if you want to get sort of a piece of the Sierra down in Southern California, that's a great place to do it. But I digress. We got up there with these two. The four of us had never backpacked together before, and we went on this crazy trip, and two of the people, I will not name names, it wasn't me, got altitude sickness. Two of us made it to the summit, like all sorts of things. One of the people went to the hospital afterwards. It was kind of insane. We all lived. We're all alive, I swear. But for some reason, Casey and I became friends after that.
I just want to point out that I think it was you because you said...
No, I know.
I'm not going to name names. It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me. I actually have summit photos to prove it. I just don't want to name the person who got the altitude sickness in case that person is listening.
I mean, it's...
They've been keeping it on the DL all these years.
Okay. I mean, it's not anything to be embarrassed about.
I know, but it's not my story to tell,
okay.
man.
All right.
Not my story to tell.
I mean, you can tell me if you had altitude sickness. I'm not going to judge you.
I did not have altitude sickness, I swear. I do remember driving down the hill and in 5-minute intervals pulling over on the side of the road so that particular person could barf. That was sad. It wasn't me. I don't know why I feel compelled to completely defend myself. I swear to God, it wasn't me.
God, I've lost so much respect for you now that I know you've had
Get
altitude
off my
sickness.
podcast, puker.
If you'd told me you were going to have altitude sickness before you came on this podcast, I wouldn't have invited
gross, you weakling. Can't you control the uncontrollable?
So Mr. Modern Hiker said, wow, you write funny reports and then you go on a trip with me. Why don't you write for my website? Is that exactly what happened?
That is not what happened.
Is that pretty close?
No, not even. It did not. I didn't start writing for Modern Hiker until 5 years later. Because it was just Casey's website. It was like his solo endeavor. Not really versus wild, but man embracing wild and sharing it with the masses. But, he approached me and it was almost like, wait a minute. I used to be a music journalist, so I wrote about music for a long time. And Casey knew this, and he knew that I really loved writing and wanted to get back into it. And about 2 years ago or so, he was like, I don't know, I didn't think about this before, but would you be interested in writing for the site? I'm like, hell yeah.
You're like, yeah, I want some of that big Modern Hiker money.
Yeah, I want to make ones and ones of dollars. No, and it's been awesome. I mean, so I was the first non-Casey writer on the site, and now we have, I don't know, probably 10 or something, maybe more. But yeah, I'm the senior writer.
Sweet.
Yeah,
so what does that mean? You get to boss people around?
No.
You get to edit other people's entries and say, I don't think you should say nestled in a cove. You should say something different.
Don't use the word epic so much to describe your adventures. Just once per entry will do. No, it just means that I think it just means I'm the oldest one. I don't know. The one that's been there the longest. But it sounds nice, doesn't it? When you're like, hey, I'm Shawnte, senior writer. Senior writer. Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do you write for it? As the senior writer?
As the senior writer, I write old things. I write very geriatric things.
You write about knee pain and
yes,
back pain.
Incontinence. Good times. Depends. I write a mix of things. So it's a mix of trail write-ups to gear reviews, and I do sometimes write about news things. So I think the most recent thing I wrote about was I don't know if you're familiar with the ongoing push to add some national monuments out in the Mojave, the Sand to Snow National Monument and Mojave Trails, and I think it's Castle Rock, Castle Craig. Don't quote me on that. I'm not as familiar with the third one, but yeah, so I just wrote up a piece this fall about that. So it's a mix of things. I mean, so we try to cover, trail write-ups across kind of the West Coast. I mean, it's based in Southern California, but you can look on there and get things in Utah and Portland and the Bay Area, Mexico, stuff like that. Gear reviews are, of course, super, super fun. I just got back from Outdoor Retailer, which was amazing. It's like a world of wonder.
Yeah, tell people what that is.
Oh, if you love gear, you just want to be a fly on the wall, or not even a fly on the wall, you just want to be in the thick of it. It's insane. It's a trade show. It's like the preeminent trade show for the outdoors world. They do it twice a year, summer and winter. It's been in Salt Lake City for I don't know how many years now. But you go there and every brand has a booth, and you can go there and see kind of what's coming up for the next season. So we just saw, we were there in January and saw what's happening for next fall and winter. And so you start drooling over all of the things. You talk to the marketing people. You might walk away with some swag. It's super fun. People drink a lot of beer, a lot of beer, like epic quantities of beer.
Did you go with Modern Hiker, or were you going with someone else?
I did. Casey and I both went, actually. And
so you were a press person?
I was. We had our press passes and did a bunch of interviews, and we actually both just wrote up sort of our favorites of the show, our best in show, if you will.
So that's what a senior writer at Modern Hiker's doing these days, writing about the OR.
Gallivanting around trade shows and trying on crampons, yes.
Man, living the life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. You have no idea now the pile of gear I have to review. Look forward to that, guys. There will be lots of testing.
You get to keep it, right?
You do. I mean, sometimes it's nice to be able to give it away, and we try to, divvy it up. There's a bunch of writers who do gear reviews, so it's nice to give everybody a chance to review and then keep gear. And, sometimes we are able to do giveaways for readers and stuff like that, so it's nice. Spread the love.
So you say Modern Hiker is strictly West Coast oriented, right?
It's headquartered here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
All of the writers that we have writing up trails right now are all based on the West Coast, but we'll be expanding into the next year, going nationwide. We just did a huge fundraising campaign so that we could basically overhaul the entire website and rebuild the database from the ground up, which is insane, crazy amounts of work for Casey. But yeah, so the goal is to actually be able to cover the whole U.S. at some point.
Okay, because that's cool, because I was going to ask if he had plans to do that. And
World domination.
If the site was still useful to people that aren't located in this part of the country. But apparently it will be useful to people all over the nation.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he does not plan to expand globally.
World domination, intergalactic domination. No, but we do. So you may have heard there was a thing that happened this year. There was a woman named Casey Knockett. And Casey went around to some national parks and painted on some graffiti onto...
is that the one that posted on Instagram?
Yeah, and then posted on Instagram, the smartest criminals. Casey kind of broke the story, and it became a huge, not just national, but that was international news. And he was interviewed, he was on TV, the whole 9 yards. And so we've kind of become known now, too, as the place you go when you see graffiti in a national park, which can be a little overwhelming sometimes.
She was contacted by authorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't she threatened with legal action?
There is nothing more I can say about what's happening with that case because it is actually an active case, but
okay.
I do expect that there will be some news soon about the outcome.
Were you subpoenaed?
I was not, no.
Was anybody else a Modern Hiker subpoenaed?
I don't know. I plead the fifth. Secret classified information. We're doing the good work out here, man.
So Modern Hiker is the tattletale website of the...
No, that's the worst way to put it. What was cool about all this, because, Casey's not out there looking, none of us are out there, looking for trouble. But what happened, is that the silver lining of all this, it sucks that somebody basically went in and, messed up all this stuff. But, now you have all these people that are talking about it, and you realize that the huge public backlash to this person doing this is that there's sort of a sacred space out there in the outdoors. Natural spaces are sacred. Even graffiti artists were coming out and saying, no, that's not okay. That's not part of our code. So I think, the upside to this is that you see people being a lot more aware and maybe educating others, calling out their friends, stuff like that, so that they're spreading that word. And I think that's kind of the positive of it. I mean, no one wants to be, we're not like the clearinghouse for outdoor graffiti. So we get a lot. You would be surprised. I mean, I have access to our Facebook page. We get a lot of emails from very well-meaning people sending us pictures of like something somebody wrote on a park bench. And we can't tackle all of the world's outdoor graffiti. It's not modernoutdoorgraffitichasers.com. But
do you own that URL?
Oh, damn it!
You may want to go purchase it.
Probably may want to purchase it before you release this episode.
Because the millions and millions of listeners may run out and purchase that right away.
graffitichasinghikers.com.org. .biz.
It's so easy to remember too.
It rolls off the tongue. Yeah, just say that 3 times fast.
So one thing I never understand about graffiti in nature is I can kind of understand the draw to paint graffiti, say, on public spaces in a city, because maybe there's some sort of rebellious kind of concept of like, no, all of this is ours, and so you don't own it, we own it, we're going to paint on it. And then there's also you got to hide from the authorities, maybe you get caught, there's some excitement. But going out to some rock somewhere in the middle of nowhere and painting on it has none of those qualities. It's just screwing up a nice rock or just a tree or just a nice area. And then usually as soon as one piece of graffiti appears somewhere in nature, more and more.
Oh, it's a terrible magnet. I mean, you see that in the front country here in Southern California. Anytime you go into the Los San Gabriels, any of the mountains around the city, any of the trails around the city, Griffith Park, it's unfortunate. There's that mentality, and I think it's because when you do go into the city, there isn't that respect for property like you're saying. It's just part of the culture. And so some people take that out into the wild with them. And instead of learning, this is why I'm a big advocate of sort of outdoor education and teaching ecology in schools. Because if you have ownership over this, if you have ownership over the land, you're not going to want to mess it up. If you feel invested in it, and that's a whole nother conversation, is whether or not people feel invested or feel like they can have ownership over these spaces,
Yeah, I agree with you, because there's also this argument back and forth between people who are active in the outdoor community, where you've got the one side who are like, this is ours, we spend time here, we don't want more people coming here and screwing it up, and blah, blah, blah. And then there are others, which a camp I like to think I belong in, which is, no, this is for everybody. Yep. Let's get everybody out here. Yeah. And my thought is when you get everyone out there and they learn to respect, they learn to appreciate it, then they actually want to care for it.
Yes, I'm in that same camp. Casey's in that same camp. I mean, that's a big reason he started and built Modern Hiker to what it is now, is that he wanted people, he wanted to encourage people to get outside and see these places that do belong to them. And there's kind of a history of just disenfranchisement when it comes to the outdoors, when you're looking at, especially people of color, and how people are represented in outdoor media, how they're represented in advertising for the outdoors, all of that. I mean, and then if you think about people that live in the city and may not have a car, there's the barrier to access. How do you get to these places? So, I mean, there's a lot of great organizations doing that work, and I think it's important. You need to get people outdoors and show them, yes, these places are for everybody. It's not just, listen, if you want to go have solitude in the outdoors, it's not that hard. Don't go to the front country. Don't go to like a busy park. Learn how to navigate, go off trail, and seek those really hidden places and find your solitude.
Go to the Silverlake Meadow.
The haunted Silverlake Meadow.
Next to the mostly empty Silverlake Reservoir on a week night.
Yeah, nobody here.
It's pretty empty except
Total
for some
solitude.
people doing yoga and stuff over there.
It's really peaceful. I feel like I'm in the middle of the Sierra right now, or like Joshua Tree.
Yeah, especially with all the cars going by.
Super nice.
All right, so we want people to go outside so that they learn to appreciate it, and so they don't see it as the scary other. Yeah. Which is easy to not care about things that you see as an other.
That aren't for you. Yeah. Why do you want to take care of these things if they're not for you? So.
And it's easy also to see it as just a resource to exploit instead of a resource that maybe has more purposes. And more uses.
Yeah. I mean, if you talk about the campaign for the national monuments, you see that too. It's that concept. What's interesting with that is that Senator Dianne Feinstein, she's the one who introduced the California Desert Protection Act the first time around. And it's been kind of revised and altered and amended several times since, and so this is kind of an addition to the current state of it. But what's amazing about that is that you wouldn't think that you'd have environmentalists, miners, off-road vehicle riders, bicyclists, bikers, the whole 9 yards. All of these people are all for the bill. Like, you'd just don't normally see that. Those kinds of people are usually sort of opposing forces, like don't bike on my trails and mining sucks and whatever, and hikers are just, they don't want anyone else to use the land and it's a land grab. And what's cool is that you're not seeing that with this conversation, and I think that's because people see the value in protecting these lands so that everybody can use them. It's important. So
yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is if you choose certain types of uses that can destroy the land, well, then it's a one-use piece of land. Right. Whereas if you can find ways for multiple groups to use it for multiple purposes, sustainably, it can be used indefinitely.
And again, it goes back to ownership, because those groups will go back and take care of it. I mean, you obviously have trail builder groups that get out. Like I've done volunteering with the California State Parks Foundation and with the Pacific Crest Trail Association doing trail work. But you also I've seen groups of bicyclists get out and repair the trails that they use. They'll have kind of like monthly meetups where they do that. And they'll work with local agencies or the Forest Service to do that kind of work. And so, again, that's just giving people agency over the lands instead of, excluding people and making them feel like they have no say.
We talked about you coming out to California and how you got involved with Modern Hiker and how you started to hike and all these things around this area. But you're involved with a lot more than Modern Hiker,
yes.
As you pointed out earlier when you were squinting, trying to remember the things
what
that
are
you
all
do with
the
your
things
life.
I do?
So how did you go from a woman that started out as a Little Shay Shay in the Boys and Girls Club, moving all over the U.S., and then coming to California, and then suddenly branching out and becoming involved in all these different outdoor groups?
I think the more I got outside, it's just like what we talked about, the more I got outside, the more it sort of stuck with me, and the more I wanted to give back to the trails that I was spending so much time on. So part of the reason I started doing volunteer work, some of the organizations that I'd said I'd volunteered with have also trained as a reforestation supervisor with tree people after the station fire, because that really affected me. I mean, sometimes those are the kinds of things that make people stand up and say, wait a minute, I want to help. And that happened with Casey actually did it, our friend Colby did it, because we wanted to be able to give back to the mountains that we'd hiked in so much and loved so much. So that's kind of how I got started with that kind of volunteering. I ended up taking a class a couple years ago called the Wilderness Travel Course, offered by the Sierra Club here in LA and OC, San Gabriel Valley, and Long Beach. And so I took the one here in West LA, and it's because I wanted to learn how to navigate so I could go off trail and sort of enjoy that solitude and stuff that we were talking about. And I also really wanted to learn how to camp in the snow. That's one of the big things they do. So I took the class, and right away I was like, okay, I kind of want to teach the class.
Because you were so unhappy with your instruction?
Because it sucked. No, the instructors were great. I'm actually instructing with them now, so they're all really wonderful. No, you know what it did is it brought me full circle back to college. All those years that I wanted to do environmental education.
Your Yogi Bear was trying to come out.
Yogi Bear was like, hey, boo, let me out of here.
Yogi Bear is your spirit animal.
It's my spirit. I know. Yogi Bear, my really inappropriate analogy / spirit animal. Yes. No, it brought me full circle. It was like, oh, duh, this is the way you can start doing that stuff that you put on the back burner for so long. I mean, that's honestly, I wanted to be able to share the things that I've learned over the years, the experience I had. I mean, people who take this class range in experience from having never hiked more than a mile to people who have hiked in Europe. Like when I took the class, I had already hiked up Kilimanjaro. And done a ton of backpacking and stuff. So you get this whole wide range of experience, and it's been really fun. Like now I've been an instructor for a couple years, and it's super rewarding because, again, it's another thing to sort of give people the tools they need to go outside and be comfortable with it and go out and have fun. And you see the students come out of that class and they sort of form groups of hiking buddies and outdoors people. Most of them go on to enjoy climbing and get into that side of things. Yeah, totally. My Yogi Bear came out for a visit, and he's here to stay.
Oh no! I'm glad I didn't bring any picnic food with me.
There is a bag of chips here.
Yeah. Who did you steal that from?
Ranger. Yeah.
So how did you go from someone taking the course to someone teaching the course? Because you don't just show up and they teach you and you're like, hey, I want to teach this class. And they're like, yeah, great. Next weekend.
Next week, yeah. No, it's cool. They actually, the Sierra Club is really cool. So when I'd been a member of the Sierra Club for a long time, but it was mostly just in a here's some money, keep doing good work capacity. And I didn't even realize, but the Angeles chapter does like thousands of trips every year, most of which are free to people. So you can sign up and you will have 2 experienced people lead you on a day hike, lead you on an overnight, lead you on an off-trail adventure, a scramble, things like that. And these are all, for the most part, free, maybe cost a little bit for like permit fees. And so they're really interested in training people to become leaders so that they can expand the number of trips and have people to lead these trips because there's such a high demand for it down here. So part of what they do with the wilderness travel course is they expect that every year, like any number of students are going to actually become staff members the next year. So I think they kind of watch for people who are interested, and I definitely made myself known. I was like, hey, so how do you become a staff? Like, I had no qualms about just being that nerdy person, and it totally worked.
Were there a number of requirements that you needed to meet to become a staff member?
I think don't be annoying. No, I think in general they're looking for, they do want you to make a commitment towards working towards leadership within the Sierra Club. There's actually several things you have to do to be a rated leader, somebody who can lead a trip. So they want to make sure you're actually working on that. And other than that, I think they just watch your behavior with other people and see, if they think you would be good at helping other people learn things. And if you're awesome, I'm just saying, one of the requirements, awesomeness, general awesomeness.
So what sort of courses have you taken to get to your certification or that appropriate level? I mean, are we talking like wilderness first responder type courses or just kind of a wide range of general outdoor studies?
No, you do. I mean, there's the requirements. I mean, there's no literal requirement, I think, for being a staff member in WTC other than being a member of the Sierra Club. They encourage you, however, to work on your rating. I right now have my O rating, which means I can lead people on trail for day hikes. And that just required me doing, I think it was like first aid, CPR. Although I did wilderness first aid and CPR because I'm actually working towards my off-trail navigation leadership. And then you go to a seminar where they talk about being a leader in the Sierra Club and kind of go over some of the protocols and what makes a good leader. What else did I do? For the I rating, the off-trail navigation one, you actually have to take kind of like an environmental education component. You can either take one of it's not a course, but more like a seminar. They offer a couple like seminars every year, or you can do what I did and basically rattle off all the other things you've done in your life and that may qualify. So that's kind of how I got out of that one. But no, you don't need to go to like NOLS or Outward Bound or anything like that. It's mostly self-directed. So it's, like I took a class yesterday on wild food foraging. So it's all about like, what do you want to bring to the table?
You have a full-time job, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you have a full-time job.
Sometimes I forget because I do all these other things. I'm like, oh, right, I have a full-time job not related to any of this.
You're an instructor.
Yep.
You write for Modern Hiker.
I do.
Some people are going to say, how can you do all that stuff? How do you have time to do all that stuff? So what's your answer to that?
You make time. I mean, it's the things you're passionate about. You'll find a way to incorporate them into your life. Like, it's funny, if you look at my Instagram feed, friends are always asking, like, were you at work? Somebody actually asked me the other day, do you still work? I'm like, yeah, I do still work. I just, I go before work, I go to Griffith Park, I go hiking. I go on the weekends and do a ton of backpacking trips, day hikes, I go climbing. This is the stuff that brings balance into my life. So for me, it's worth getting up. I mean, sometimes I'll get up at 5 a.m. if I really want to go do something beefy before the workday. And the rest of the day is always much more awesome for it. I just feel much more energized and happy. And I can't be, LA it's a good city in a lot of ways, and it's a rough city to live in a lot of other ways. So for me, it's kind of like the balance. I mean, I'll go do things after work, go on night hikes. And I know so many people who love being outdoors that it's not hard to find people to do things with to kind of keep you motivated. Maybe if you don't want to get up at 6 a.m., somebody will be there like, yeah, you got to because you're supposed to meet me. So where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, I'm also writing right now, among all those other things. I'm an athlete ambassador for Merrill. I'm part of the Merrill Pack, which is kind of a new ambassador program they started this year. So I do that. And then I'm also writing a guidebook, which is its own full-time job. So you damn well better love something like that because it's a complete labor of love, Yeah,
this is the thing that I think people forget is, sure, we don't all have the same amount of responsibilities, but we do all have the same number of hours.
Oh, yeah.
Most people who say, I don't have time for this, if they stopped and just for a week, look at each day and look at what they did each hour that day, they'd realize how many hours were sort of squandered.
Oh, yeah. Internet,
TV,
whatever.
Yeah.
Sleeping in.
Any number of just distractions. And so I think an answer is look at what's the distraction in your life stop spending as much time with those. You don't have to remove those distractions from
No.
your life. You can still enjoy those distractions. Just shorten the amount of time you spend with those distractions, and then redirect that time elsewhere.
Yeah, find what gives you joy and pursue those things. I mean, they don't have to be a job. That's the thing. Like, my job is awesome. It's fun, but it has nothing to do with the outdoors. I work in the music industry. But for me, I know that I need that balance, and I find the time. You find, if hiking in the mornings before work is going to make for a much happier day, if I sit there and my alarm goes off and I want to hit snooze, I think about that. I'm like, wait, you know what? I've never gone hiking and been like, oh, I wish I didn't do that.
Right.
Never. But I have slept in and been like, oh, I wish I would have went hiking this morning. Yep,
absolutely. Know what you mean. I think, too, when you find something that you really enjoy doing, you find ways to make the time to do it. So if you try something and then you're not finding yourself doing it, you probably really didn't like it that much.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everyone I know who's really into any sort of activity, they're looking to find the time to devote to that.
Yeah.
They're not making excuses to do it. They're thinking, oh, maybe I can make time for it here, or maybe I can make time for it here, or, oh, I really want to find out about this, so as soon as I get home, I'm going to look this up. And they enjoy that time.
Yeah.
That's the difference. When you start enjoying that time, you realize, like, oh, I could do
some more
that
of it.
instead of watching Netflix for 4 hours tonight.
Yeah, and then when you find other people that also have the same mindset, it's a game changer. Because then those people, you'll never be at a lack for motivation. You'll never be at a lack for finding somebody to carpool with or to set up a car shuttle with. Or, those are the people that kind of keep the stoke high.
It's an upward spiral.
It is. It's awesome.
Spiral.
I feel so high in the best, most natural, organic way. Yeah, but it is. You find other people who sort of keep the stoke high, and you develop sort of a community. I think the outdoors world is really cool that way, is that you find these pockets of people that, there's no limit to the amount of times I get asked, do you want to go hiking? You want to go backpacking? You want to go climb? And that I do the same for other people. And other things too, you want to go kayaking? Sure, why not? I want to go canyoneering with you guys. Yeah, awesome. There's so many different ways to enjoy the outdoors. And, a lot of my friends who live in other places they're like, I don't understand. Like, you live in LA. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's all around you. And, not everybody has the same access to the resources we do, but, we're pretty lucky here, I think.
Yeah, and everyone has access to something. They just
right,
have to,
it might
even
be a
if
city
it's
park.
just some local park or something. And you kind of, because when I moved out to Los Angeles, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And what I ended up doing was doing a search online and finding this club, joining that club, and then from there, all the pieces just start to fall in place.
Yep.
You meet a person that can tell you how to do this, who will take you to do this, and then for every person you meet 2 more people,
right?
And then 2 more people, and it just, next thing you know, you're not figuring out how to do things. All the opportunities are there.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing too, is I think with a lot of these kinds of activities, people want to share it with other people. It's why I teach. That's why I write for Modern Hiker. That's why I'm an ambassador for an outdoorsy brand. It's like, that's why I'm writing this book. And, it's not to make the tens and tens of dollars that I'm going to get ultimately from it. It's because I want to share that and sort of maybe open up a door for somebody else, or give somebody else the inspiration that they need to sort of kick their butt and say, like, you know what, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to join a meetup group, or I'm going to take a class, or whatever it is.
That, what you just said there, is kind of the answer these days. Look for a meetup group.
Yeah, meetup is great.
There's probably some group
There's
that
some
you can
group
find
out there
near you that does something you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, that's why I know so many canyoneers now, is because I joined a canyoneering meetup group.
Yeah.
And now I can barely ever do anything else because I know so many canyoneers.
No, seriously, that's the problem, right? It's like too many opportunities to be outside. Sorry, I can't come into work today.
So you've mentioned that you're an ambassador for Merrell, which, if anyone doesn't know, they're primarily a shoe brand, right?
No, it's funny.
I know them for shoes.
Yeah, most people know them for shoes, specifically for running shoes. They have a pretty lengthy history. I mean, they're a European brand that I think their impact on the sort of American market has been running. But they do have a lot of other things. They have some really excellent boots. In fact, a lot of the hikers that I've seen on the PCT wear the Merrell Moab ventilator. It was a super popular kind of breathable low cut.
But are we talking all footwear? Like, would footwear be accurate? Or?
Oh, they have plenty of clothes.
Oh, so they do?
I don't think I'm wearing any right now, but yeah, I've
apparel.
got jackets at home. I've got shirts, pants. I have these awesome, like, waterproof pants that I wear when I'm dumb and hike in the snow without any appropriate gear. Yeah, no, they do a bunch of stuff. And what I think is really cool is that they said that part of their goal in doing the ambassador program was, and it perfectly aligns with everything I've said tonight, was to have people out there inspiring other people to go outside. And if you look at the people, like there's these two brothers right now that are on this road trip called the Broad Trip, which I love. You've got like, I don't know if they're boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband and wife that are doing, they're traveling. I think they did a long distance hike last year. Now they're traveling up the coast. And, you have runners and hikers and surfers and all these outdoors people, just regular everyday people. None of us are like super uber athletes that have like deals with Nike or anything. Just people who love being outdoors that are passionate, that share that with other people. That's kind of the gist of the whole thing.
So what does it mean to be an ambassador? And how did you become an ambassador?
It ties into Modern Hiker because Modern Hiker, we like to do hikes every once in a while that Casey or I, or, we like to hike sometimes.
That would be wise.
Just a little bit here and there. We like to invite other people sometimes, our readers, so to speak. And so we'll do these kind of like hikes that we'll lead, and we'll maybe talk about history or something like that, or geography, or it's just a cool hike. And so we were doing one up to Sandstone Peak back in the fall. And there was a woman that had contacted Casey from Merrill, and she came along, and she and I ended up talking, told me about the program, and she had me tell her, some more about myself, and basically like the distilled essence of what we've been discussing for the last, however long, and last 5 hours.
55 minutes.
55 wonderful minutes of pure joy and bliss.
Hey, boo-boo.
And so we ended up talking, and she told me about the program and wanted to know if I thought it was right for me, and I said, hell yes. So I became an ambassador, and sort of what I do, they don't really ask much of us. It's be yourself, I happen to post a lot on Instagram because I'm posting a lot of pictures of the PCT usually. So I'll tag them every once in a while. We've run contests with Modern Hiker where people have been able to win like some nice gift certificates. And I did a hike with Merrill where people got to try on some of their new shoes and test them out, and then we did a giveaway and stuff like that. So that's kind of the end. That last thing is the thing I like the most, is being able to take people out, which I love. It's my Yogi Bear in me. My inappropriate analogy of Yogi Bear likes to take people out.
Yogi Bear loved to take people out to help him steal picnic baskets.
Yes. See? Okay, we didn't steal anything on this trip, but getting people outside. And then what's super cool is that, listen, like, gear doesn't have to be super expensive, but often the stuff you want is. And so it's nice to be able to, like, help people get free stuff. So I kind of like that. Like, I get a bunch of things. Like, all of my students this week, they do not know it yet, but all my WTC students are going to get a free buff. Like, it's just a thing. So it's nice to be able to do that and kind of psych people up and give them free stuff. Take them outside. Share the world with them.
Are you going to get deep now?
I get really deep.
Are you going to read us a Robert Frost poem?
Yes, I had to wait till we were officially at the 60-minute mark. But now nature's green as gold. Her heart is few to hold. I can actually go. It's a great poem. Highly recommend.
Could you really go through the whole thing?
I probably could. I could actually also recite the Lorax to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I used to, the summer camp when I worked there after I went there for many years, I used to read it to kids every night. And because kids want to see the pictures, you can't really be staring at the book. So I had to memorize it so I could have the book facing out. I recited it for some friends in the car going to Joshua Tree recently.
Let's hear page 5 of the Lorax.
Page 5. At the far end of town, no, that's page 1, where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing, excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax.
So go buy that book so that the Seuss Foundation doesn't sue the podcast.
Seuss us. Yeah. You don't want to be Seussed.
Speaking of books.
Oh, books, yeah.
Check this out. Check this segue out. Look how, you know what makes segues
It's almost like we set that up, but we didn't, I swear.
But you know what makes segues even smoother? When you discuss how smooth they are.
Yeah.
It makes them
just call
amazing.
attention to it smoothly.
So speaking of books.
Oh, yeah, books.
Such as the Lorax.
Such as.
Which is not the type of book you're going to write.
No, it will not be in
You are writing a book.
I am.
Oh, you should totally do it in verse.
That would be super easy. Yeah, no problem. And take a left here, and then do not have fear. You will see a bear, but do not have cares. Yes, I'm good at this.
You're good. Do it.
Duh. Finish.
So, book.
Mountaineers, you guys into that? It's my publisher.
It's the Lorax Guide to the Pacific
The
Crest
PCT,
Trail.
yes. It's the Seussified Guide to the PCT. I'm sure that we could get that trademark taken care of. It'll be great. Yeah.
So what is it?
So it's a book. It is a book. I got a book deal writing a book for the Mountaineers, which is one of the kind of preeminent. There's two sort of huge outdoor publishers, and they are the better of the two, in my opinion.
Oh, who's the other one?
I'm not even going to name them because it's not worth it. That's so bad. But Mountaineers is kind of like, if you have Freedom of the Hills, which is sort of the mountaineering Bible, that's their sort of like massive book. But you believe me, you have other books by them in your closet. In your shelves, wherever you keep your books.
I have a 4th edition of Freedom of the Hills on
classic.
my floor in my office.
Mine is on the floor too, next to my bed. It's like my Bible.
You should only keep books on the floor.
Study it at night, only on the floor. Yep, I don't even have a bookshelf. My book, however, will get its own shelf once it's out. It'll go a gold shrine. But yes, I'm writing a book about the Pacific Crest Trail. It's a guidebook. It's not your traditional guidebook, though. I can't divulge the super secrets. Yes, because It's all in iambic pentameter. It's written in Shakespearean English, Pig Latin. Yeah, so I cannot divulge all the details yet. We don't want the competitors to know what's going on over here. But it's a little bit of a different book. So I'm also the photographer for the book, which has had its own challenges because you got to think about what will inspire people to want to go to these places. So if I've broken down the trail into segments, what's going to make someone want to go hike that segment? And sometimes the light isn't right, or it's snowing, or it's raining for 10 days solid when you're in the Sierra. That happens. So you just got to work around it. And, but then again, that's part of the trail, right? Is that sometimes it does snow and sometimes it does look like crap and there's 10 miles of burnt trees and, you work around it. But I get to tell a lot of funny stories and also tell people, I guess, details about camping and water and all that jazz they need to know. But I get to have a lot of fun with it.
So let's imagine somebody listening right now is thinking, I don't want to say this out loud, but I don't know what the PCT is. What is that?
It's okay. Don't be embarrassed, friend. The PCT is the Pacific Crest Trail. It runs about, give or take, 2,650 miles from...
Is this the prologue to your book?
This is the prologue. I'm actually reciting it to you right now. Haven't sent it to my publisher, so this is a secret. Runs from the border with Mexico. It starts in Campo, California, and it goes Weedle-dee-dee all the way up to Manning Park, BC, over the Canadian border.
And you said roughly how many miles?
2,650.
2,650
Give or take, because there's always parts of it that close and open and reroute and all that.
And have you hiked all 2,650 of these miles?
No, my book covers about 942.5 of them. I have hiked those miles many, many times. many times.
Is that the California section?
That is the section that goes up to Tuolumne Meadows in Yosemite.
So from Mexico to Yosemite.
Yes, which is kind of trippy when you think about it. I remember walking into Tuolumne Meadows this summer, and you're used to kind of fighting the traffic in the valley in Yosemite or Tioga Road, waiting for it to open. But it was a whole other experience, like walking into Yosemite. It was kind of weird and awesome.
So how come you haven't gone further north?
Because I got to work on this book first. I got to finish this book. And then I can quit my job and roam the wilds and spend 5 months hiking. Dreams.
When you become a millionaire from the
yes,
publication
when I
of
make
this
millions of pennies from my book, yes. Millions of halves of pennies. That would still be a lot, actually.
So let's fair amount of money.
Millions of pesos?
Yeah, it's like, what, million pennies would be...
We talked about how math isn't the thing for me, right?
$10,000? Is that what a million pennies would be? 10,000?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to... Let's say tens and tens of dollars will be made. It might be enough to pay for all the ramen I ate this summer.
You're going to pay for that in a different way later in life.
Oh, yeah, I've already paid for that many times over.
Are we talking about the package like Maroshan?
Oh, yeah, the only kind.
Oh, yeah, you're going to pay for that.
I mean,
Top ramen. I don't want to.
Yeah, we don't want to advertise specific ramen brands. It's really choose your own ramen adventure.
We don't want to advertise 10-cent ramen brands. I don't think they need our help.
College
students have them covered for the
college students and long distance hikers.
When I was in college, because I like to derail my own podcast.
Yes.
Since we're talking about ramen.
Very smooth transition again.
When I was in college and I was eating ramen all the time, we found like the dumbest ways to try to make it more interesting. So I was like, oh, and also I ate a lot and then I ate even more. So I had to have at least 2 packets of ramen, which really isn't much food.
No,
so then
but it is like 1 million calories.
Right, but we'd put eggs in it or we'd put like canned vegetables. We just figured out different ways to make it not just be regular ramen. And then as soon as I graduated from college, I think I probably went 5 years without eating.
I haven't eaten it in years. I'm one of those gluten sensitives, And I threw all that out the window when I was on the trail because you know what? You need calories. You need salt. I needed all the gluten. I wanted the gluten. I did make the mistake, however, of when I got to Red's Meadow at that point, I had lost so much weight that I hike in a skirt usually. I had to roll my skirt waistband so it fit. You too? Yeah. A kilt. A util kilt. I had to roll my waistband like 4 times so that my skirt fit. I was emaciated. When my friends saw me in Mammoth when I got off the trail in Yosemite, they were like, "What's wrong with you? You look so hungry." I'm like, "I am. Give me all your enchiladas."
Oh, and how long were you on the trail?
That stretch was, I took 2 months, like a 2-month sabbatical this summer. So I spent most of that on the trail.
So I bet you were starving.
Oh my God, I was starving. I remember one night, my most magical night was I was hiking out. I had one more night before I was going for a resupply over Kearsarge Pass down through Onion Valley and hitch a ride down into Lone Pine. And I got down to Vidette Meadow, and I had like one lonely packet of some disgusting, dehydrated thing in my bear can. And I went and was like sadly preparing to make it. And these people had a campfire. It was one of the few places on the trail where I saw a campfire ring. And they're like, "Are you hiking the PCT?" I'm like, "How could you tell?" They're like, "You kind of look like you've been on the trail for a while." I'm like, "That's a nice way of saying you're disgusting."
They smelled you.
I could smell me. I could smell me 4 miles away. I could smell myself approaching myself. It was nice smells. And so these people were like, "Oh, you want to come eat with us?" I'm like, "Okay." And I knew I was going to be a little sad inside because they had all this food and I just had my one little packet of shriveled up whatever. And I rolled over there and they're like, "What? Is that all you have to eat?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going out to resupply." And they're like, "Oh, come join us." They made fresh mushroom gnocchi. They had imported chocolates. They had whiskey. They were smoking pot. They had like all this stuff. They just kept offering. They just kept like putting things in my hand. They practically were force feeding me. I was like, yes. I ate so much food that night. Then they made me eggs in the morning before I left.
Nice.
I was bitching.
The longest I've ever been on trail is 6 days.
Yeah.
And when I came off that trail, I was starving, and we stopped by some restaurant that was still open, and we were in Victoria in Canada. And I ordered an entree. It didn't do anything. I was still starving. I ordered another entree. I was still starving. I ordered a third entree. And the only reason I didn't order more after that was because I didn't want to spend any more money. So I had 3 entrees, and I still was hungry after 6 days on the trail. So 2 months, dude, I would just be dead.
You don't even know. Yeah, I'm surprised I wasn't dead. You have to kind of carefully balance the amount of calories and your caloric density so that you can fit everything in the stupid bear can, which is not stupid. It's there for a reason, but no one wants to carry that thing. Although it does make a nice stool. But yeah, I can tell you so many stories of, I still remember the guy. So I was with 2 other hikers, PCT hikers, coming down Kearsarge, going out for resupply. We got to the bottom and we're all like, "How does this work? Like, how do we get down to Lone Pine from here?" And I saw this minivan pull up, and all of these hiker trash people got out. They were slightly cleaner than they'd probably been the day before. And there was this older guy driving the minivan, and I looked at the guys that I'd been hiking with. I'm like, "I'm going to go over there." And I heard the guys calling him Mr. Burns. I'm like, "Hi, Mr. Burns," in my best like Kimmy Gibbler voice. I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Burns, how are you today?" And he's like, "Oh, good. Are you a PCT hiker?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you need a ride into town?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so my friends and I like jump into the strange man's minivan, and he comes around from the back and he hands us all a Capri Sun, an orange, and a frozen Snickers bar. And I think we all had tears in our eyes. We looked at him and like, "Thank you, Mr. Burns, thank you." And we all tore into the oranges first.
So does that make him a trail angel?
He was a trail angel. He was a trail angel who was also hiking, but he was hiking to meet his wife at certain stops along the way. So if he got there before her, he'd like rent a car and go help out hikers. He was super awesome. Good people in the world, trail angels, generally.
See, if you go outside, you find out that there are actually good humans on Earth. More than bad humans.
People are so nice on the trail. I really think that there's something sort of communal about the experience of being outside. People want to do good by each other.
So this book you're writing, you want to get people to hike a portion of the PCT using your book. When are they going to be able to buy it?
That's a good question.
How long have you been writing it?
Forever. No, my book, I'm at the final version of it is going to my publisher in September. So sometime in 2017, I believe. So we'll revisit then. We'll do an all book podcast then, maybe.
We'll have you read aloud.
I'll read the entire first chapter, like you're all school children learning about nature. It'll be really awesome. I'll try to leave out the part about all the nude elderly people in the hot springs. But
I would recommend leaving that part in. You may sell more copies.
My editor did tell me I have to leave it in, so...
It sounds like a great editor.
I love my editor. Yeah, so until then, I will be on the trail a lot, hopefully meeting a bunch of this year's through hiker crop, and writing, taking pictures, and generally loving life.
So let's tell people, since they can't go buy your book right now, and if they're just like, I haven't had enough of Little Shay Shay.
Oh, they need more
I need
Shanae.
more Shay Shay.
Yes.
Where could they find that?
Oh, you can find me in many places. You can go to Modern Hiker and see a lot of the things I've written there. I have my own website, ShawnteSalabert.com, and I'm on Instagram, Twitter. Don't find me on LinkedIn, though, unless you're going to offer me some sort of awesome, writing job. Not worth it otherwise. Go visit my website. Find some things there. Maybe I tend to write a lot of my humor pieces on my website, so that's where they live. That's where the funnies live, theoretically.
On the website, I have all the links, and they have photos and everything, and a header image. I think what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to put your head on Yogi Bear's body, and that will be your header image.
Oh, I like it. That sounds really awesome. Boom, boom.
So we'll wrap this up now, because we've been talking for a while, and I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, man.
Meaning of life. You have 10 seconds. Go.
Meaning of life is learning about yourself and always pushing forward and figuring out how to share that and be kind to others.
Wow, I think you just touched my heart.
I know. I touched my own. Thank you.
All right, now it's time to leave Silverlake Meadow
Aww.
and return to the city from whence we came.
Goodbye, nature. Goodbye, beautiful reservoir, which I have not poisoned, even though we discussed it.
If there's a news report of a poisoning in this reservoir in the near future, I'm going to turn you in.
Please don't.
And on that note,
it's
let's
been
have a
wonderful.
good night and get out of here.
Woohoo! Happy trails to you. Isn't that how we ended the last one?
Oh, yeah, go through. Do it. Just
I don't know any more words. Happy trails to you.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, damn, we're already here at the end of the show. I want more Shawnte. I want more Shay Shay. Well, don't worry. Later this season, she will be part of the Solo Backpacking Roundtable. That Solo Backpacking Roundtable episode will come later this summer, so you can get more of your Shawnte fix then. You can also get more of your Shawnte fix on the internet. That's right, you can find her many places on the internet. And the first place you should go is our website, gogetoutside.com/podcast. Look for episode 27, Shawnte Salabert, and there you will find many links, including links to ShawnteSalabert.com, thesierraclub.org, modernhiker.com, Shawnte's Instagram, her Twitter page, her stories on Modern Hiker, as well as links to some of the things we discussed in the show, like that Instagram graffiti story she mentioned, that perhaps you've already seen because it made its way all over the internet and turned into a huge thing last year. Also, links to various ways you can hike San Gorgonio if you are here in Southern California or are visiting. And then another link to the White House website, which may seem odd until I explain why. Earlier in this episode, we discussed some upcoming new monuments that were potentially going to be designated. Well, shortly after we recorded this episode, that did happen. President Obama declared 3 new monuments here in Southern California. They are Mojave Trails, Sandstone, and Castle Mountains. There is a link to the White House announcing those monuments along with a bunch of photos of those places. So if you've never checked any of them out and you're curious if you should, well, go there, look at those pictures, and you will probably be convinced to do so. Also on the website, pictures. As always, pictures of Shawnte in action, doing the things she does, and being a human Yogi Bear. So head to the website, check that out. If you are one of our returning listeners, thank you, by the way, if you are. And if you aren't, shame on you. Go back, download all 26 past episodes. Get to it, chop, chop. But if you are a returning listener and you were listening to just the previous episode, episode 26 with Fresh Off the Grid, Megan McDuffie and Michael Van Vliet, you may have recalled I mentioned they were making their way to Cuba. Well, they did make their way to Cuba, and they have completed that trip. And if you go to their website, freshoffthegrid.com, you will see a recent blog post all about that trip to Cuba, chock full of some great photography from there in Cuba. So if you, like me, are very curious about our nearby communist neighbors, take a look at that post. Maybe you'll learn something. Are you lonely? Do you sit alone at night, wishing you could communicate with us here at the Go Get Outside podcast? Wishing you could cuddle up with us in a soft blanket? Well, it's unlikely you'll be able to cuddle up with us in a soft blanket, but you can do the next best thing. You can email us, go@butcherbirdstudios.com, or
pick up the phone.
Call us up, 818-925-0106. That is our Google voicemail. You will not reach us personally, but you will be able to leave a 3-minute voicemail message, which I will personally respond to, unless it is some sort of spammy message or personal harassment. Although, I probably will respond to the personal harassment. I will not respond to your spam. Same thing with emails, people. Go@butcherbirdstudios.com. I will personally respond to every single email message unless it is spam. And you know what else we always say here at this part of the show. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, whatever you use to listen to podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed, rate the show, review the show. If you do that, maybe you will get to cuddle up with us here at the show in a nice, soft, comfy blanket. I make no promises, but who knows what the future may hold. Next time on the show, Brian Snyder, adventurer, author, man who likes to get locked in European towers. Come back next time, May 1st. See you then.
Ooh.